Hey, this is Allie Edwards, and in this video, I am going to talk a little bit about traveler's notebooks or documenting in a notebook. Now, I want to start off by saying that this is something that I actually resisted for quite a while. I was like, nah, I don't need to do that. I love my albums. I like my 6x8. I like my 4x6, whatever. I like all the other albums. I like working inside an album. Blah, blah, blah. I feel sometimes don't you just sometimes just what it feels like. So I had a request in one of my previous videos to show a bunch of these notebooks all together. So you can go into my blog archives or my YouTube archives and see lots of different projects that I have created inside of notebooks for probably the last year or so, I think. Last summer was when I really kind of dove into it. But in today's video, I just want to flip through some of these and talk a little bit about why I like them, why I love it as an option. I don't think I want to do all of my documenting in notebooks, but I definitely like it for certain projects and just for a break from the traditional scrapbooking. Okay, so I think the first one I started was one of these two. And you can see these are Art of Noticing. This is how we originally started offering notebooks in my shop. You can get notebooks in lots of different places. And I used these for two different things in 2020. The first one was I used this one as a home for documenting a trip that Aaron and I took in February to Las Vegas. And so within this notebook, I got to play a lot, which I loved. And I love having just the Today I Noticed, right? It works great for documenting a wide variety of stories, or you can just cover it up, right? It really depends on kind of what you want. But in here, I've got stamping happening, and then I'm just using the space there available for documenting some pieces of this trip. So playing with stamping there. This one's just a pattern paper where I adhered the card for our hotel room on there. Then I'm just, again, writing, right? Writing as I go. And I think on this one, I actually brought the notebook with me and did the documenting while I was there, and then added the photos when I got home. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. So here's a full photo page. So it's a great just example of different things that you can do in there, right? You can do a full page of stamping. And I think that one I stamped just directly into the notebook itself. So photos. Then you can also do pattern paper where you're stamping right on top and adding your story right on top of there. This is just a really great example of some different ideas. This is actually from a magazine that I put inside, and that's from inside one of the hotels. Here's one where I did a shaker pocket on top of here. This is all available, I'm pretty sure. I think this was like a stamp week is when I did most of these. Again, this is from 2020. But using the basic foundation in the notebook to guide my storytelling. That's all I put in this one. And maybe that will be all that's in there. I kind of think that it would be great on another trip that Aaron and I go on together at some point in the future that maybe I would just add to this. So there's one of them. Obviously, you can see sometimes I'm not even putting anything on the cover. Like, part of what I think I've liked about notebooks is it gets me out of feeling like things need to be perfect too, right? Or that things have to have a cover. And you'll see some of these I've done a cover. But it's such a great place to hold stories. So that was that one. Then I also started one at the beginning of COVID, and this was around the same time as I did the documenting on the other one, I think. But I created a little pocket on the inside. You can still see the adhesive around there. I could have covered that up with something, but making a little pocket for journaling about what was happening. This was like right when things were starting to feel a little bit crazy. So pattern paper there with some embellishments. And then I used this as a spot even to hold in some of the jelly plate prints that I like to do. Again, you can see here I'm still following the formula with the photo there and the journaling down below. And this also gave me an opportunity to play with stamps, right? This is school now, so a little bit of that initial time back in March of 2020. This one's got pattern paper with handwriting on top, rubber piece there on the bottom. This one was when our book club was getting together virtually, and I put a big embellishment on top of there, so that was pretty fun. Again, here's another example with a full page photo and then a photo of Anna. This is great for that point in time, and it's great just to be able to jot down little stories too, and then to play with some of the patterns that you love or to play with the stamps that you love. It's the size difference, I think, is part of it. And it's also outside of the page protectors, which is still something that is really exciting to me right now. So those were, I think, the first two that I did. One that you might not have seen yet, this was one I did for Kelly Ishmael, who works with our company, did a class on our website called Empty Nest and New Stories. And she did her documenting in that project in a notebook. And so I did some as well. And I think these are available in that class too. This is still a class that you can take. So if you're in a place in your life where you are entering an empty nest, or you experienced an empty nest and you're looking ahead for yourself and kind of documenting who you are right now, this would be a great class to check out. But you can see it's got fun little interactive things. I've also have big pieces of journaling here with some patterns, just nice and simple, right? Most of these things are all digital pieces actually that I printed out from the class, if I remember right. Actually, some of those might be pattern papers from my stash, but you can see that I'm going pretty simple, right? It's pattern paper with a couple embellishments, long journaling, love that. Here's 2 pages with photos with journaling that are on top of the printed photo with that little heart coming through there. This was one that I put together or created rather than having be the, it came from a base. You can do it either way. Motherhood looks like, right? This is at that point in time talking a little bit about that. I love this. I love looking back at this. I haven't looked at this for a while. This is a couple years ago there with an IM telling my story, what's unfolding. I love that picture of me and Anna. I haven't looked at this little one for a while, but I have a few blank pages there if I wanted to add other things in. Notebooks are great. They're great for having a beginning and an end. They're great for different kinds of storytelling. I also did one in one of my travel projects. I think this is in one of our travel workshops, probably from last year, I believe. This was documenting one of our first road trips in our camper van that we got. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is in the class itself. So I walk you through how I created this in the class. This, I believe, was a notebook that we offered with the travel collection last year. And then I'm building on top of that, adding in vellum pages, got some stamping going on, got some journal cards, right? Like looking for ways that you can add journal cards into these kinds of projects. So this would be more details on this particular project will be available in a travel workshop. I'll link that for you guys below. This was fun. I love the opportunity to add in other embellishments and add in other pieces too. So there's some of that that's related to the workshop as well. So photos, lots of photos. As you can see, I had a lot of photos in this one specifically because it was a travel project. And so I loved being able to find a different way to add in the journaling, right? The journaling could also be added in between if you didn't want to cut into the photos themselves. They could have been like, these are our pockets right here too. So really building an album in a way that makes sense for the story that you are wanting to tell. Again, journaling's there. Really fun. Loved how that one turned out. This one also, I think, was one that, yeah, I just filled the whole thing in. So cute. This included, okay, this is what it was. It was 2. It was like our first 2 trips in the camper van. One just with Erin and I, and then one with the girls. So great for travel. Definitely love those for travel, whether you are documenting it while you're traveling or later on. All right, so a couple other ways I've used this. Some of you guys saw last summer, this is how I chose to do my documenting last summer, was in a notebook. And so I just kind of focused specifically on that. And I'm going to do something a little bit similar this year with this around the yard one that I recently started. So I love how it can be, this is something that I'm kind of into right now, I think myself, of having letting the patterns be there, not having a ton of things all around, but picking, being intentional and picking like one specific embellishment to live inside of a pattern. I've done that recently on a couple of layouts. And I know for some people it's like super, super simple, but it's also, I find a lot of beauty in that simplicity and not feeling like it has to be covered with lots of different things, but it can just be beautiful because this pattern paper is beautiful or something that I really enjoy. So had fun working with embellishments, working with different things I had in my stash, pairing those photos. Again, this is one of those art of noticing ones, but in this case, I'm just filling in, or I'm covering up the little squares there too, but you can easily use those. So last year, super fun talking about, what was on our bucket list there. there, documenting some of the flowers. This is something that I want to do in my around the yard thing this year. I love pages like this. Just even, think of all of the photos that you have that you might want to add into like your favorite photos. And you could put journal cards right directly on top of there, right? Looking in your stash and grabbing some of those. Here's one that I did too, just things, what was I thankful for? And adding in, playing around with adding in different things. This is a 4x6 card there. You could easily add in 4x6 cards or 3x4 cards from particular kits. Again, day trip with my sister last year, bringing in some additional embellishments, right? Bringing in the ability for things to flip open, talking about the trip with her, which was super fun. And then another one there with that. Pattern papers, pulling some of those out of the kits. This was actually from the first scrapbook kit that we did last year. And these are all of these are either on YouTube or on my blog here. And a little story about my sister, Anna and Gabrielle, my niece. Just an around here one, and being able to play with the stamping and adding that in. Love that. I feel like that's such an easy thing to add into these. And a trip here that Erin and I took in the camper van to Waldo Lake. That has then just a cute little vellum piece on top with tags there on the back that are tucked underneath the photo. So adhering that in that way. Lots of people, online have been working in notebooks for a long time, so I'm sure there's tons of inspiration for different ways that you can use these. I've really enjoyed it, especially now, having someone request that I go back in and look at all of these individually. I think it's such a great way to see how I've actually been using them over the last couple of years. Here's some from the hexagon scrapbook kit, a couple stamps on the top there, and then some more photos. This was the end of August. There was kind of the last entry. On these ones, when I have extra pages, I'm just leaving them. Like it doesn't matter to me that there's a couple blank pages in the back. So I've got that. That was summertime. And then I'm going to talk about Pieces of Life in just a minute. But this is the one that I started for this year that you might have seen already when I was doing projects with the Rainbow Scrapbook Kit. This was how I started this one. So I wanted to make an around the yard journal notebook. Here's information just on my why I'm doing it. So the first pages are just some fun embellishments there. And then it kind of dives into using, again, some of the ones with the Today I Noticed paired with other ones where it's a full page photo or a full page of journaling. This is a 4x6 journal card that I took and turned into a longer spot there. I need to add in a couple more March gratitudes. My plan is to use those for each month. These are from the Stories by the Month kit there. And then here's some of my yard goals. So I think I've got these. This is from Stories by the Month, and then this is also from the Currently kit. But I'm looking at see how these 3x8 pages fit almost right in here, where I could just trim that down and make this be a shorter page. So that's what I have here to work on coming up. But we're definitely playing with my stash, pulling things out. Such a fun way to approach that. So this is the one, like I said, that I started just for garden documenting. So I got to spend a couple days, or yesterday I spent most of the day outside, so I'll have a new story to add in there coming up here. All right, and then the last one that I wanted to talk about is something that we've been doing for a couple years now, which is the Pieces of Life collection. And started with Pieces of Us was the first one, or Pieces of Me. And so I have in this notebook here, I have two. I have the Pieces of Me and then Pieces of Home. And then we have a new one that is going to be happening. I'm going to be documenting the week of April 4th, which is Pieces of the Past. So this is the one that's available on the site right now. I think I'm probably going to add this or put it in another folio here. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I might just start another one of those. But you can also get additional elastic that could hold another book in here, another one of these notebooks. But just a quick flip through on these. These ones you can definitely see here on YouTube and on the blog. These ones, the thing that's cool with the Pieces of Life projects are that we give you 7 prompts. So there are 7 specific things to think about for each one of the prompts included in the overall theme. So this was feet, hands, face forward, eyes closed, half face, full body, and reflection. This again is Pieces of Me. So in here I did a combination of full page photos mixed with, sometimes I like to do a full photo. On these ones it's a full page or a full thing rather than having the box like we did on this one. So it's a little bit different with the Pieces of Us ones, but it does have the prompt already included on there, so you can easily just respond to the prompt. So again, on this one, having fun playing with some jelly plate prints, pairing that with a photo, another one of those with the stamp there, face forward. Here's one one where I had longer journaling, so I just put that on that side. All of these are like printed on different paper and then adhered onto the paper that's already in the notebook itself. This one I love. Like, this is, again, such a good example of picking, like, using the pattern papers that you really love. Use them, right? And just added one embellishment on the top there, or one of your little favorite embellishments, adding it on. Photo, big photo there on that one. And again, longer journaling. So that was Pieces of Me. And then Pieces of Home also had its own prompt list there too. This one we did in the fall. And this one also, again, just had fun playing with little embellishments, right? And in this case, I decided to do these ones all the same. So these ones all have a photo, and then I'm pretty sure they all have the journaling down below. This was, again, printed and then added in here. I could have handwritten it, but I just decided to do it this way. And then for the opposite pages, I just picked pattern papers that I liked and embellishments that I liked and added those on there. So I've got just pulling from my stash, essentially, the pattern papers here. This is from I believe the Star Scrapbook kit, the Heart Scrapbook kit. This was the Heart one too, but being able to use some of these vellum pieces. Photo of the bed there. Happy, that was a good one too. That's from the Circle Scrapbook kit. Again, this was in November. So you can see I did a few things that were similar, right? Had a couple, especially within one like this where it's a specific project. So you can see where I repeated some of those same things each time. Let's see. And then the back had just that embellishment there on the pattern paper. I really love this part. This one's really fun because it's very targeted. It's very specific, and I love doing it together as a community. So that's a look at what I've done so far with notebooks. And that's, like I said, pretty much over the past year or so, maybe a little bit longer. This might have been one of the actual. And there's another one that I did, which is in a December daily. I think I'm going to see if I can find that one too. Found it. Okay, so the last one I wanted to show you, this is in my 2018 December daily, and I've got a whole pocket for it. This has been shown on YouTube and various places, also obviously on my blog. This one I didn't stitch this one together. So this one is just kind of all of the pieces together, but it's not stitched. It seems to be fine in terms of how it's holding up. More information on this one can be found in past blog posts and on YouTube if you look up 2018 December daily. But this one was great. This also, again, was travel related. So we took a trip to New York City, and I brought this with me so that I had set it up in advance, but I brought it with me so that I could do my journaling. And then when I got back home, I added the photos in here. So this is a photo that was just added on top. That's where my journaling ended there, and used the Avery index tabs along the outside edge. Also being able to add in some vellum pieces was really fun. This is from Shake Shack. Again, pairing photos, lots of photos with the other things here. So yeah, being able to bring in some of the ephemera. This is from the Color Factory, the vellum there. I love how this is one of my favorites too, especially looking back at it. It's such a great way to use, a few embellishments, some great patterns that you like, adding in your words and photos. So good for stamps. I did some longer journaling at the end, like what did I want to remember when we came back to. Definitely one of my favorites in terms of things that I've put together. So love being able to have that in the middle of all of the December stuff. All right, you guys, hopefully this has been informational for you. Like I said, I love doing the notebooks. I think it's such a great opportunity to do storytelling in a little bit of a different way, especially if you've been doing this for a long time, or maybe you're brand new and you're like, oh my God, I love that idea. I'm totally going to go with that. There's not a right or a wrong way to do memory keeping or scrapbooking. There just simply isn't. There are lots and lots of different ways that you can get your stories told. And I think it's really a matter of finding what works for you at a specific point in time, and then being ready to pivot and not getting stuck in that feeling like it must look a certain way or it must be cataloged in a certain way, right? So much joy just comes through the process of printing out my photos, writing out my words, picking out my favorite patterns, picking out some of my favorite embellishments, and then bringing them together in this format. All right, as always, if you guys have questions, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you back here again soon.